Hi everyone, we are back! Thank you so much for waiting patiently and understanding that it was my holidays. But now that the holidays are over, I am back. Now, I couldn't wait to be back. You know why? Because we are less than 2 months away from the election. Seriously speaking, we are actually less than a month away from the election. Next month is election. People, I cannot stress this enough. The title of this podcast is that we can rig the elections legally. It's time to do that. How can we do that? How do we rig elections? Why should we rig elections? Voting is over. People, why do they always talk about voter turnout? Because nobody votes. Not nobody. My viewers probably do vote. However, I have numerous friends that say, Yossi, why should I vote? It's not worth it for me to vote. It's not gonna count. There's election fraud, there's dead people voting, that's part of election fraud. My one vote's not gonna make a difference. I'm too busy. I have other people to take care of, I meet people, this, that. Make time in your day to vote. I cannot stress this enough. The midterms are our opportunity to take back the House and the Senate. Everyone knows that there's a red wave supposedly coming. So do the Democrats. So the Democrats can now do voter fraud. But you just said we should vote. Why do we care? You know why? I just said that everyone knows about the voter turnout. There are too many people that don't vote. Voter turnout was more, voter turnout was less. Why should we vote? Makes no difference. You have a civic duty to vote. It's time, as Dan Bongino says, to call 10 friends and get your 10 friends to vote. It's time to get those 10 friends to bring 10 friends to vote. How do we rig the election legally? By surprising them. By surprising the riggers. The Republicans also tried stealing elections. I don't know if you ever heard my interview with Jeff Dornick. Jeff Dornick said a great story where he exposed election rigging. And a Republican called him out on it and said, how could you expose election fraud? That's our only way of winning this election. Jeff Dornick said, I don't care if it's our only way of winning the election. We don't. First of all, it wasn't their only way because the fraud was too much. Second of all, election fraud is election fraud. No one can commit election fraud. A lot more Republicans commit election fraud than we think. But if we outrig the election fraud, we look at the cycles, we see how much the voter turnout was, and we double, we triple that, we can outdo the Democrats' fraud. We can outdo any fraud. We could have this red tsunami if you just vote. It's very simple. Just vote. Should we stress why you need a vote in order to bring back the Republicans? The Republicans aren't necessarily the best people, but they're a lot better than the Democrats. The Biden administration, I got emailed last week during my holiday, leaked documents where the Biden administration is now flying in Afghanistan. Once we're talking about Afghanistan, do we need to remind you what happened? Do I need to remind you what happened in Afghanistan last year, where he brought the army back before the civilians, and how many people died, and how many people are still stuck there? And then when people were coming back, Marines were coming back dead, he's checking his watch. Do I need to remind you about that? Our inflation is sky high. What does President Biden do? The first thing he does, he comes into office, shut the pipelines. Demands this to be shut. Demands that to be shut. Lockdowns. You get fired if you're not taking the vaccine. All that needs to go through the Senate and the House. The Senate confirms justices all across the House, all across the country, not just Supreme Court. Seriously speaking, we have to take back the House and the Senate. We have to demand accountability. We have to take accountability back. Anyways, the leaked documents that I got was the Biden administration is sneaking, taking Afghanistan refugees that did come, and putting them all across America, giving them $1,000 a month, free tuition, free insurance off your back, of American citizens' backs. And he's taking them and he's putting them, and he's giving them $1,000 a month for up to 60 months. America, we can stop this if we only voted. It's up to you to vote. It's up to you to bring back and vote. To bring your friends, bring their friends, convince. And the talking heads are not talking about this enough. They're not convincing people to vote enough. They're talking about it. They're not talking about it enough. The whole podcast needs to be about voting. I cannot stress the importance of voting enough. It's time to outrig the election. It's time to rig the election legally. We can do this. Bring your civilians to vote. Bring your friends to vote. Convince your family members to vote. Do this. Let's do this. Talk to them about the issues. Talk to them about what the Biden administration is doing. Talk to them about the transgenderism, where people are taking their little children and they are they're abusing them to say, "Oh, my kid's transgender too." I saw earlier today, lives a TikTok, I think it was, tweeted. Actually, I take it back. It wasn't lives a TikTok. Hashtag Jen Van Laar. They are transing kids at age 8. So by the time these kids are teens, no one knows that they were the opposite gender. It is child abuse. It's just what's in these days. It's in to have a transgender kid. These kids at age 8 don't know anything from if they're boy, if they're girl. They don't know anything. They're too young. But no, our politicians are saying to those that expose that it's hate speech. They're attacking Libs of TikTok. That's why I mistook Jen Van Laar for Libs of TikTok. They're attacking Libs of TikTok, and they're calling her. They're saying that she's doing hate speech, and we have to be inclusive of transgenderism. We need new people in. We need Republicans in. I also want term limits, but that's for another podcast. After the election, we could rig the election legally. We could put a stop to the madness that's going on in America. If we just cared. If you just voted, things would make a difference. Everyone, I'm begging you from the bottom of my heart, please vote. Now, I wouldn't be Yossi Schmidt from Team One Support if I didn't address this. Kanye West decided that although it's the Jewish holiday season, that's when he's going to start his anti-Semitic words. First of all, if it's anti-Semitic or not, let's not get into it. But he did say he's going DEFCON 3 on Jews. I don't know if Candace Owens says, "Oh, you think he's lunatic? You'd be crazy to say that you thought that he was going to go and kill Jews." Saying the word DEFCON, whether or not he meant to kill Jews or not, is actually words of violence. Candace, you might be a friend of Kanye. However, you cannot lie to yourself and lie to your audience and say, "Oh, he didn't mean it." Death means death. Now, I always say free speech for all. So does Kanye deserve the right to free speech? Kanye, I'm talking to you. You deserve the right to free speech. You might be talking about my people. You might be upset at some people of my religion. You have the right to be. You have the right to say whatever you want. You don't have the right to call for violence. That tweet should have been deleted, but not you being locked out of your account. No more cancel culture. Don't call for violence, but you had no right to be had no right to be banned. Twitter, Instagram, I'm calling on you to reinstate Kanye's account. Or Ye. I apologize, Kanye. If your name's Ye, your name is Ye. So then Kanye goes ahead, Ye goes ahead and buys Parler. Yossi, what's your response? He's all for free speech, right? Let's give him a chance. He has a right to have freedom of speech, just as much as you and him and her and everyone else. We all have the right to free speech. So I support Kanye in buying Parler. Good for you. You're taking a stand, like lots of other people I know. The more we have alternative social media platforms, the more we have an alternative economy. As you know, I'm a big fan of it. A couple of my friends, of my acquaintances, created the Indie Tech Council, where they're building a council of alternative economy, parallel economy. They're making a list for you to see who's who, the backstory, who they're competing against. The Indie Tech Council's website will be linked into the show notes. But I am a very big fan of Staying on Big Tech. That was last month's podcast. Now, while I was gone, I was on Twitter during the days I was allowed to be on, and just Mondays were terrible for podcasts, so I couldn't release any podcasts. However, while I was gone, I did release the op-ed, the opinion piece on Female Supporters' website, detailing why Gab is considered anti-Semitic. No, it's not anti-Semitic. No, they have a right to say whatever they've said. I just said that about Kanye. There's nothing wrong with it. However, people, I want to say this. In my opinion piece, which will be linked down below on the show notes, I explain what the problem with Gab is. Why is Gab associated with anti-Semitism? Listen, read the piece, share it. Maybe Gab will change their ways, and after they change their ways, I'll be more than happy to review them, support them, and do whatever I can to help people go to Gab. Thank you very much for listening to this week's podcast. Subscribe, follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Go to my website, you'll see more. Thank you for everything. I'll see you next week. Hold everyone accountable and vote. Only good things.